And then there was this almighty bang. I felt nothing like it ever. If this is death, this isn't so bad. Well, we got on board Antelope, and then I started looking for Jim once I got up onto my feet. He said, "He's dead, follow me." "What's all this white gear that you're all wearing?" "Oh, this is anti-flash in case of an explosion." So we scrounged some anti-flash. Next thing I knew, they're waking me up, and the surgeon's leaning over my shoulder saying, "We've had to take your arm off."
Welcome to the debrief. This week, a former Royal Engineer, bomb disposal. Done loads of stuff. We're going to have a great chat. I'm looking forward to this. How are you, John?
I'm very well, thanks.
John, tell us a little bit about yourself today. But I want to know about your childhood. I want to debrief you as an individual, and get your whole story across, basically.
Well, I was born in 1942.
1940. Wow, yeah.
Yeah, way back.
So the war was still on.
Well, he was. That's why I was born in Warwick, because we were blitzed out of Coventry. I used to live in Coventry.
Okay.
And my mother moved to Warwick, where we had relatives.
Coventry got blitzed as well, proper, didn't it?
Yeah, she was blitzed out.
Yeah, that was a proper,
Her flat was blitzed out, and she lost everything. So she went to live with her sister-in-law, my father's sister, and that's how I turned up in Warwick in 1942.
Wow.
But after a couple of years, we went back to Coventry when they were rebuilding it. And that's where I did all my secondary education.
Stable family, all that sort of stuff?
Oh, yeah, no problems.
Did you enjoy school?
Yeah. Sorry?
Did you enjoy your schooling and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it was basic. I just went to school because everybody went to school. I just went. I didn't learn much. I left school with no qualifications.
What was family life like? Because obviously rebuilding after the war, was any of your family involved in the war, that sort of stuff?
No, my father was a reserved occupation. He was a long-distance lorry driver.
Okay.
And he was up and down to Liverpool collecting all the stuff and delivering stuff.
Okay.
I just thought of, he was a lorry driver, end of story. He
Yeah,
did no military career.
No.
I'm the one that broke the mould when I joined.
Okay.
And I decided, because I was a keen Boy Scout, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I loved adventure and outdoor life, camping, walking, this sort of thing. So it was a natural progression for me.
What age did you join the Scouts?
6 as a boy, as a
Oh,
cub.
okay. Oh, wow.
And then went right through to 15
Yeah.
when I decided to join the army.
Okay.
15. Because in those days, the cry was, get a trade. So I went as an army apprentice where I got a trade.
The cry was no different. People always say, get a trade. I
Well,
wasn't clever enough to get a trade. That's infantry for me.
I'd try and get try to encourage my grandkids to get a trade, a plumber, a bricklayer or something, because you'll never be out of work. So that was the cry. And I joined the army and got both worlds. I got the military life and the trade life.
Okay, so in those days, where you join up, you go to the careers office, same as everybody else.
Yeah.
You did your selection, I suppose, a couple of days, Sutton Coldfield type thing?
I went to the Coventry recruiting office and the door was shut. Big, heavy door it was, I remember.
Yeah.
And I was so timid, I decided, I'm not going to knock on the door. Anyway, I turned around to walk away, and this bloody big guards warrant officer stuck his head out the door and said, "What do you want, lad?" Of course, I was committed. Then I turned around and I told him I want to join the army. I didn't know anything about the army at all.
No.
And so he dropped me in, and that's how it happened. I just went through, took exams,
because
you have to be a certain level of education.
That's right, yeah, medicals, all that sort of stuff, cough and tickle.
In fact, I cycled home to get my glasses because I went first without my glasses, thinking I don't need them. But I cycled all the way home in a hurry so I could pass the medical.
Wow.
So I was really keen to get in, get going.
To what swayed you, having known nothing about the army at all? Obviously, the Royal Engineers, is this you picked up because they said you could get a trade as well?
Well, yeah, but I wanted to join the Royal Warwickshire Regiment because it's the only people I knew.
Okay.
And I knew of them because of the Korean War, because they were involved in the Korean War. And I just wanted to join the army. And the only army I knew was the Warwickshire.
Yeah.
But anyway, I took these tests and I got sufficient markings that they said I could join the Army Apprentice College at Chepstow.
Okay.
So I went down there, did the 3-year apprenticeship at Chepstow, which was quite an experience. I didn't get any promotions or anything within the boys' school.
Yeah.
I just put my head down and got through it.
Yeah.
I did 3 years, and then went into what they call manservice, which is Royal Engineers proper.
Did you join as an officer? Is it?
No.
Okay,
I just I finished up commission.
Okay.
But I went through the ranks.
Okay, so all right. So you joined up as a soldier, as a man soldier, what?
Sapper, as they call it.
A sapper, yeah. Where did you do your training for that?
At Cove in Farnborough.
Okay.
Where you get all Royal Engineers have a special trade, combat engineer,
Yeah.
and every Royal Engineer, irrespective of where they're going to end up, has to be a combat engineer.
Okay.
Bridge building, watermanship, knots and lashings, all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Explosives, of course. And then I did that. And of course, I was enjoying life in the army as a young soldier, and I was a private, a sapper for 6 years.
Okay.
And
What
then
sort of postings did you do in that time?
Well, I had some good postings.
Yeah.
I was in what they call Strat Reserve for 3 years, and I went to Canada. I went to Norway.
Wow.
In Strat Reserve. A young man.
Yeah.
Because when I got on the aeroplane for the first time, I never told anybody it was the first time on an aeroplane because nobody would, And for many others, it was the same probably.
Yeah.
But I just went through it and did it. Yeah. Here we are. So we went to Canada and we built a couple of bridges in Canada, improvised bridges. And but then I volunteered to go to Australia, to the atom bomb test range in Maralinga.
Wow.
Yeah. And I forgot all about the fact I'd volunteered. Anyway, this posting came through in 18 months after that, saying you're posted to Maralinga. I thought, wow, what an experience for a young man.
I bet, yeah. How long did it take to get down there in them days?
Well, we went via Singapore. We flew on a propelled airplane, propellers, with the families, on a families flight. Stayed Singapore for 10 days in transit, where we had to go on the ration runs. We were working with the Gurkhas, fetching and carrying the rations. And, well, that in itself was an experience.
Yeah, I bet, yeah.
And then because Qantas were on airstrike, the planes were all grounded, so we couldn't fly to Australia. But we eventually flew to Australia and landed in Perth.
What year was this?
1964.
Oh, wow. Okay.
1964.
Long time. But that's before I'm born even.
Going back a bit. Well, you said it. But, so we arrived in Australia, and I remember when we got into Perth, they opened all our bags, and we were travelling as government officials on our passport.
Yeah.
Obviously, we were squaddies.
Yeah.
But government officials. Anyway, I'd come straight off site to the aeroplane, and my boots were covered in mud. And of course, I just put them in my suitcase covered in mud. And I'll never forget, when I got in Perth Airport, he pulled these boots out with his 2 fingers, and he carried them off for decontamination sort of thing. I'm standing there in my civvies, wondering what was going on, because, having come from Singapore, he didn't know what I was bringing into the country.
Yeah.
So these boots, anyway, by the way. So I had 18 months in Australia on the Maralinga test site. Brilliant job.
Yeah, what were you doing?
Well, I was there as an engine fitter because my apprenticeship was as an engine fitter, repairing pumps, generators. And my main role was to provide power in the forward area for all the monitoring equipment.
Okay.
There was a few minor tests going on.
So did they do any tests while you were there?
No, the trigger mechanisms they were testing.
Okay.
But the bombs themselves had already been tested.
Right. What was did you see any of the sort of like devastation?
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff?
It's a good question because, it was all over the place. Because they lined airplanes up, they had buildings, they had everything to test the effects.
So you're right in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
They got planes lined up, buildings lined up, cars lined up, dummies lined up, all that sort of stuff. And what was the devastation like? Because I'll tell you why, and this is really interesting at the moment, because people are probably looking over their shoulder a little bit going, Putin could actually press that button. And so what you've seen could actually become a reality. Yeah. I mean, for some people, I don't think it will, but, I don't want to scaremonger out there, by the way. But, what was the reality of a nuclear explosion?
Well, as you say, devastation. Everything was contaminated as well. That was the thing.
Right, okay.
They didn't educate it. Yeah, they didn't educate us on that.
Yeah.
They sometimes gave us a white suit and a respirator to wear. and we go and do our jobs, whatever it was, and then we had to come back through a decontamination trailer,
right,
which I was supplying the power for.
Yeah.
And if we were not clean, we'd have to go round again and have a shower and have another shower and so on until we were clean. And I remember we had a corporal, who was a Welsh corporal, who used to get upset if you had a bigger reading than he did on the contamination scale. I mean, can you imagine? He was a real
glowing like the ready brick man.
He was a headbanger. Yeah, he was. He was a headbanger. But he was really upset if you got a bigger reading than him. But anyway, so a marvellous experience for a young man.
Yeah, I can imagine. You know, what an interesting thing.
And after 6 months, we were allowed R&R down in Adelaide, and they flew us down there. We stayed in a place called the Centralia Hotel in Adelaide. Den of iniquity, it really was. It was full of squaddies on leave, basically.
Yeah.
And you can imagine what was going on.
It
was fantastic.
It's fantastic.
Anyway, before I went to Australia to jump around a bit, I'm sorry, I'd met this girl in South Wales, a nurse.
Yeah.
Squaddies and nurses get together occasionally, as you know.
Yeah.
And because I was going to Australia, she decided to give me the big E and said, sorry, John, you know, you're off to Australia. I've got a career to, you know, so I got the proverbial Dear John. Anyway, when I came back from Australia, unbeknown to me, she had written to my wife, to my mother.
Okay.
And said, is John back in the country yet? My mother said, yes, she is, and forwarded me the letter. And so I contacted her in Cardiff, and she said, do you fancy getting back together again? Of course, I was down to Cardiff like a shot. 18 months or no 18 months, I was down there like a rocket. And we got married 6 months later.
Oh, wow.
And we're still married now, 59 years later.
Well, fair play to you, mate. That's an achievement in its own, isn't it?
Christmas Eve we got married. Christmas Eve.
Oh, don't. You're the most romantic man on the planet.
I know. Well, I'd just come off a Cardiff, and I thought, well, I've got to grab her while I can, basically. So we got married on a special license on Christmas Eve.
Wow.
And then when I got married, I thought, I've been a private soldier for 6 years now.
Yeah.
I thought, I've got to screw the nut here. I've got to knuckle down. I've got a career. I've got a wife. I've got to look after my wife.
You need some readies. You need some folding.
I need to get promoted. So I screwed the nut and calmed down a bit. And eventually I got noticed and got promoted Lance Corporal. And I walked around with this stripe on my arm thinking, wow, this is wonderful. But, and I was posted to the bomb disposal.
Okay.
As a mechanic, not as a bomb disposal engineer, but someone in the workshops.
What year is this now? So into the 70s now?
1965.
Oh, 65. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, got you.
Yeah,
right.
65.
Yeah.
So in 1965, I was posted to bomb disposal as a fitter, which was my trade.
Yeah.
But when I arrived, they didn't want any more fitters. So the OC said to me, right, Phillips, he says, do you want to go in the field? So, yes, sir, 3 bags full, sir, you know what it's like.
Yeah.
He said, right, you're off to Mundersley in Norfolk. And I'm promoting you to Lance Corporal. I thought, bloody hell, I've only been in the unit 2 days and I'm a Lance Corporal already.
Yeah.
So he then sent me up to Mundersley in Norfolk, where I was there for a year. And what our job was clearing the mines from the sea defences from the Second World War.
Oh, okay.
All along the Mundersley, Norfolk coast. It was all mined.
Yeah.
And that was our job, was doing that. So I didn't volunteer for bomb disposal per se. I was just evolved.
It just you fell into it.
And as I got,
literally.
as I got promoted, I got further trained. And that's how it progressed, really. And after 3 years, I was a full corporal.
Yeah.
And I posted to Germany, to Hamel in Germany, where I did 3 years as a section commander. That was interesting because the Russians were going to come over the hill then, you know, and we were
That's
trained.
what they were talking about.
That's what we were training for.
What year is this now? So now we're talking.
I went
69.
to Germany in 68.
Okay.
And left in 71.
Okay.
On promotion to sergeant, to Shape in Belgium.
What was the genuine threat then? The Russians are coming.
Well, that's what we were training for.
You're being told, right? I'll tell you what, because 2-1 SAS, they had all the forward reconnaissance along that.
Yeah, we used to come across those your lads on exercise, you know, on the big exercises.
Because people don't even think about that nowadays, do they? No. But you were actually told, you know.
Yeah.
Boris is on his way. You know what I mean? He's coming. Right. He's told up. He's on his way.
We knew where all the mines were going to go on the bridges incredible. In Hamel.
Yeah.
You know, all the cheese.
Yeah, because it was all about the border, wasn't it? And delaying tactics and stopping them and stalling them and making sure they couldn't advance.
Practice getting bridges across the Weser, you know, to counter-attack. Oh, it was all pucker stuff. We didn't realise the seriousness of it. We were just doing what we were told to do. We were training.
Was there a bit of a drinking culture in Germany then?
Oh,
I'm on the Asback.
Every squadron block had an attic, and in that attic there was a squadron club.
Yeah,
and it was buzzing from Saturday lunchtime until Sunday evening, where you had to sober up and go back to work. It was that bad. It really was. It was fantastic. We worked hard and played hard, basically.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. That's how it should be.
And it was all ours.
Yeah.
And Christine was with me in a place called Hastenbeck. We had a lovely flat in Hastenbeck. Beautiful, purpose-built flat for squaddies. And, I had 3 years there and got posted out as a sergeant to Shape in Belgium.
Okay.
Where I worked for the engineering branch there, back to my trade again.
Yeah.
And I was in charge of the power station, which ran the whole power station for the complex.
Yeah.
They didn't need me. There were 4 Belgian civilians who'd been doing it for donkey's years.
Yeah, you'll almost get.
They didn't need me.
Yeah.
So I just paid lip service to it. Really, I didn't like the place because I'd just been promoted sergeant. I was raring to go, and they posted me to what I could see as static unit.
Yeah.
Shape headquarters. So it took me 18 months to get out of there, and they posted me back to bomb disposal then as a sergeant, a recce sergeant.
Okay.
Yeah, where I got further trained.
And where was this? Where are you now? So you've gone from Belgium, posted back to recce.
Felixstowe.
Okay, all right.
We had a barracks in Felixstowe, believe it or not, because EOD in those days, bomb disposal, was a very small unit, and we had satellite camps around the country.
Yeah.
And our main role then was to clear the World War II training areas of unexploded ordnance.
Okay.
So that was my job, was supplying those with all the stores they needed to do that job.
I mean, now we're talking 70s, early 70s. Is Op Banner on by now? Is that?
Yeah, Op Banner went in '69. I missed that because I was posted from Germany in 1969. Sorry, in 71.
Yeah.
To Belgium, and the squadron was just preparing to go to Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
So I missed it. I didn't go on the arms tour to Northern Ireland. I did eventually serve in Northern Ireland with 11 Squadron as a staff sergeant, colour sergeant.
Okay.
But
was that on bomb disposal again? Was it?
No. I served as a Royal Engineer, and we built the CQBR range at Ballykinler.
Oh, I know it. I know it
I
well.
bet you do. Yeah. We built that range. We were based in the Hutted camp in Ballykinler.
Yeah, I know you. Yeah.
We had the best disco in the province.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. But yeah,
out of sight, out of mind, didn't it?
Yeah, we built the CQBR range.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, there's an alley in the CQBR range. It's called Phillips Alley. They named it after the senior NCOs and officers, different streets. After the people.
Wow, that's mega. I love that.
Yeah, that was quite an experience. That was good.
Yeah. So, any more tours?
Yeah. Whilst I was with the 11th Squadron, we went to Oman.
Okay.
We were the first squadron not to get the Dhofar bar. I was on the advance party. 3 Squadron were just about to leave. They were the last squadron to get the Dhofar.
So that should have gone on your GSM.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we didn't get it. They didn't give it to us because.
Why?
Well, they decided that hostilities were over, although there was still about 30 or 40 ADU, as they call them, enemy. 30 or 40 were still active. It was still an arms tour. We still had to carry weapons and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And my particular job in Oman was mine clearance.
Oh, okay. Mines don't go away when, they stay, don't they?
That was what it was.
They're always there, yeah.
If a camel or an individual stood on a mine, my job was to go out and carry out an investigation
and clear
to discover what kind of mine it was, who laid it, so that country could be held to be responsible, so on. So the interesting thing there was that we didn't use British equipment. We didn't use the 4C detector. we used the American detector. We didn't trust our own.
Wow.
It was a far better piece of kit.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I don't know whether you've ever been in a minefield, but if you're in a minefield, you don't put your foot down till you've gone over with a detector. Even though you've sort of walked out there, you're still looking.
Yeah.
Even though you're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And you've got to rely on your oppo as well. And it's quite an experience being in a live minefield.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah,
It's not the best of places to be.
You've got to know what you're doing.
Yeah. So, Oman.
Yeah, went to America on exchange tour with 30 Squadron.
Okay.
11. We went to California, and the squadron out there, Americans, came to Ripon in Yorkshire, where we were based.
Okay.
We got the best of the deal because we got sunshine, they got rain and snow and God knows what else. But we were out in California for 6 weeks. We showed the Americans what we were about, which was great. We did all their physical training tests. We did all their arms tests. We excelled in everything. In fact, you may or may not know that the Americans give out badges for firearms, weapons tests and all the rest.
Yeah.
They ran out of badges. They didn't have enough for us because we all passed. And they were very impressed with the squadron. We were a good bunch of lads, actually, very high skilled, great comradeship. And what the Americans couldn't get over is we worked as a troop. We stuck together as a troop. We went to a barbecue, we went together. The Americans are very individualistic.
Yeah.
They couldn't understand the troop mentality.
Yeah.
And to be amongst, 40 lads who you can trust is a great experience.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's the same sort of background you've had.
Absolutely, yeah.
More intense probably, but you can rely on these people.
Yeah.
And it was such a wrench when I got posted away from them back to bomb disposal.
So you're back in bomb disposal?
Yeah. I was training the Territorial Army, or the reservists, as they call it.
Okay.
And I was there as a PSI, Permanent Staff Instructor.
Yeah.
Where I got promoted to WO2, QMSI.
Okay.
And I stayed with the TA for a year. And then the Sergeant Major of the regular squadron got promoted and posted very quickly. So they were looking around for someone to bring in as a Squadron Sergeant Major. And I was a WO2, substantive WO2. They brought me in, and I took over the Sergeant Major 49 Squadron. When was that? I was trying to think. That was 81, I think.
81, okay.
Yeah, 81.
So were you with them for the Falklands, were you?
Yeah, that's when it all kicked off.
Okay.
Now, we'd been sending soldiers down to the Falklands for several years, down to Moody Brook to clear the Marines' grenade range of unexploded grenades and all the rest of it. So we knew where the Falklands was. And it was Easter, 82, when it all kicked off.
That's right, yeah.
And we were all on block leave. We had half the squadron was in Singapore, dealing with Japanese unexploded bombs. The other quarter of the squadron was on standby. So there's very little people that we could choose from.
So did you get a recall from leave, basically?
Yeah. I got a phone call whilst on leave. I was laying paving slabs in my garden. And the boss rang me up. He said, right, Sergeant Major, he says, he's managed to get 2 people on the task force, for God's sake, because the powers that be totally underestimated the threat of unexploded bombs.
Yeah.
And I said, right, I'm one, who's the other? He said, no, you can't go. He says, you're the Sergeant Major. I said, hey, sir, I've waited 20 years for this. I don't want to miss this opportunity. This is how it went. Anyway, I convinced him that I should go because in wartime, a warrant officer is a bomb disposal officer anyway.
Yeah.
Right? He's an active bomb disposal officer. So then we had to decide who to take with us, who should be the other member of my team. And we decided on Staff Sergeant Jim Prescott, who was similar experience to me, same background, ex-boy, all the rest of it, and was all in all good lad.
Okay, so you decided you picked a team.
Yeah.
What happens then? Where'd you go?
Well, the first problem we had was what the hell we're going to be dealing with. We had no idea. So I was dispatched down to UKLF in Salisbury, to the INT cell there, with a view of finding out what weapons the Argentines had and what we're likely to be dealing with. Anyway, They couldn't tell us. They didn't have a clue what the weapons, the Argentine. They gave me a Jane's Defence Weekly, which had an article on Argentine bombs. And unbeknown to me at the time, the British government had sold Canberra bombers to the Argentines a few years before, and they'd sold them these £1,000 general purpose bombs to go with them. I didn't know that at the time. So
it's very Arthur Daly, that, isn't it? There you go.
Well, it was. Off you go. And it was very Heath Robinson.
Yeah.
In fact, we were so ill-equipped for what we were going to do, I had to go to the Junior Leader Regiment in Dover, the Royal Engineers Junior Leader, and go to their adventurous training wing and scrounge 2 Bergen rucksacks, because we didn't have any. I had to scrounge 58 pattern webbing, because we didn't have any. We had the old 45.
Really?
Yeah, this is absolutely true.
That's the brass buckles and
yeah. Dad's army stuff. Yeah, really. So I went and scrounged that from Dover. And we had to, and eventually, because we didn't know what we were going to be dealing with, we had to take everything for all contingencies. So we had 2 tons of equipment, Jim and I, which we had to handle and manhandle ourselves, because everybody had their own problems. They didn't want,
Yeah.
Anyway, once we got everything in train, we got the equipment coming in. The boss was very good. There was some new equipment being developed in factories and being made. He managed to get those speeded up and delivered to us so we could take them with us, the rocket wrenches, which I'll come on to in a minute, what they're used for. And then Jim and I went on a couple of days' leave, rest, back to our families, let the people who were given the jobs to, let them get on with it, basically. And then a day or 2 before we sailed, I went back and got all the equipment back together. I also went on an O group down to Plymouth, 3 Commando Brigade, to find out, A, what ship we were on, B, when we were sailing, all the details you would need, etc. I was a W02, Sergeant Major. All these bigwigs hovering around me, trying to get their regiments and their battalions to go, were very disappointed that they weren't going. And I was a nobody. I couldn't find out anything. I eventually found out that we were sailing on the Canberra bomber, on the Canberra...
The cruise ship.
Cruise ship.
Yeah.
From Southampton, with 3 Commando Brigade. But Jim and I were the only Royal Engineers on it. We were totally out of our comfort zone with the paras, the Marines, running around the decks, and we had to run around with them on the way down to Ascension Islands.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind, we still didn't know what we were going to be dealing with. When we got to Ascension Island, they reorganised, and they were there for 12 days, I think, cross-shipping people.
Yeah, loads. Equipment loads. Yeah.
We were cross-shipped to LSL Lancelot, where I was attached to 5-9 Commando Royal Engineers, back from my own kind, basically. Perfectly. Jim and I were quite happy about that, because we knew a lot of the people on board anyway.
Had you ever done your commando course or anything like that?
No, I didn't have to do a commando.
Okay.
But I had to do everything they did without having done the course. that was the problem.
So always the way, innit? Yeah.
It was all expected of us,
Yeah. Well, of course it is. It's war as well.
But it was, yeah. And a little story there. One chap was a rigid raider squadron. He was W02 Marines. His demob day was whilst we were at Ascension. And he went to his boss, true story this, and he said, "Right, sir, well, boss, my time is up. I've now finished. I'm out the army." He said, "No, you're not. You're in the reserve. Get back on board." He said, this is absolutely true story. I didn't make that up.
Yeah.
And he said, "No, you're in the reserve now. Get back on board." He wasn't a happy cookie, I'd tell you. But, so I went the rest of the way from Ascension to San Carlos on the LSE.
Yeah.
Quite happy. Good comradeship with the lads. We were listening to World Service all the way down, with the signal coming in, going out. It was high frequency. It was coming in, coming out.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to keep ourselves up to date what was going on. Not really expecting to go all the way, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And then we heard that the Belgrano had been sunk and that Sheffield had been sunk. So then we realised that,
this is a punch up.
This is real.
Yeah, this is a punch up. That's beyond sort of like, hang on.
Yep.
You got, yeah.
Yeah.
It's on.
This is going to happen now.
Yeah.
Because we all thought we were going to turn around and come home, But then everybody really switched on to double-checking their equipment, all the rest of it. And on the Tuesday prior to landing on the Friday, we were all told we're now officially on active service. All got together. And we arrived on the 21st of May. 21st of May was a Friday, beautiful day, a bit like today, right? Beautiful clear skies. And I had no job to do because we were responding to requests, basically.
Yeah, so you're going to wait.
We had nothing to do. We just sat there twiddling our thumbs, basically. And then the air raids started. And they came in really low.
Is this the Picaras, is it?
Yeah.
That were coming in, yeah.
Picaras, I'm trying to think of the other planes they had. You could hear them coming. We had the 5-minute warning, 2-minute warning. The klaxons were going off on the ship, warning us they were coming in. And the landing zone was so well chosen that we were surrounded by hills.
Yeah.
So they had to come over the hill and down to bomb us. And it was the fact they had to come down to bomb us saved our bacon because they hit most of what they aimed at. And most of the bombs didn't go off because they were so low.
Didn't have time to arm.
They didn't have time to arm.
Yeah.
That's right. But they hit everything they bloody aimed at. So lucky. It was incredible. Anyway, we got a request to go and help HMS Argonaut out. She'd been hit by 2 bombs, one in the boiler room, one in the forward magazine, and they needed help because the Navy, EOD, was busy doing other bombs on other ships, and the powers that be became aware of us, and they were told to use us. So in a classroom situation, Phil, an unexploded bomb on board a ship is a naval responsibility.
Yeah.
But you're not going to turn around and say, sorry, mate, that's not my side of the ship.
There's a war, isn't it?
You've got an unexploded bomb, we're EOD.
Rule books have just gone, we're now at war. Yeah.
Send us where you want, basically.
Yeah.
But the next problem Jim and I had was, remember, we don't know what we're dealing with. What kit do we take, in our little Bergen rucksacks? So we took what we thought we'd need. And then the next job was, how do we get there? Because everyone's got their own problems. Helicopters flying everywhere, rigid radars going everywhere. We had to scrounge a lift, believe it or not. Had to put in a request for transport to Argonaut, who had an unexploded bombs on board. We eventually got it, of course. We go across to Argonaut, and I don't know whether you've ever been at sea level to a warship, but it's a bloody long way up.
Yeah, I have.
They dropped this rope ladder down.
Yeah.
And we had to climb up this rope ladder with all our kit on, I thought, well, if I let go of this, I'm going straight to the bottom.
You're going deep six. Straight away, yeah, absolutely.
So, we got to the top and we were met by a naval warrant officer. And the normal questions, what is it, where is it, and what have you done about it? And he said, right, it's in the boiler room, and we put some mattresses around it to keep it from rolling around. I said, okay. He said, you're going to have to walk over some bodies to get to it. I thought, oh, God. I thought dead bodies. But what he meant was sailors sleeping at their post. And he said, boy, watch out for the wires sticking out the nose. I'm thinking, wires? What wires? It's because bomb disposal is not a red and green wire situation. It never is.
No.
And I thought, well, I can't think of any bombs that's got wires in it, Anyway, I said, okay. So we went down, and first thing we saw was a British 1,000-pound general purpose bomb, which we recognised instantly.
Instantly, yeah.
So we knew what we were dealing with. Question 1. Question 2, what about these wires in the nose? So I go forward in the boiler room, and I look at these wires, and there's wires sticking out the nose. But what it was, the bomb had gone round the boiler room twice when it came in. It was almost on its way out again.
Yeah.
And in doing so, was picking up all the lagging off the pipe the asbestos lagging on the pipe, which was held on by chicken wire. And it was chicken wire that was sticking out the nose of this. Absolutely true. So our main concern was then the pistol at the back, which was going to set it off. So we had the right tools to deal with that. We dealt with it. And what you're trying to do in this situation is to separate the means of firing from the main charge. It's like taking the detonator.
So you're taking the det out of the... Yeah.
But this is a mechanical mechanism.
Even if that does go, it's not going to...
That's right.
Let the whole thing have it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then it's just a container of explosives then after that.
Yeah.
Which you can handle. So that was our aim, was to pull this thing out. And the way we do it is, forgive me jabbering on because my brain's going 10 to the dozen here, is to clamp onto it and then have a Catherine wheel effect, which spins it off remotely, because you try not to change the state of a bomb when you're there. You try and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And on board ship's not very far away, you know. Exactly. Exactly. You're not far away. So, and it was very successful. We went back, give it a soak, what they call a soak time, which in case anything's going to happen, will happen. So after the soak time was completed, I went forward as the boss and confirmed that we'd managed to take the pistol out. So the bomb was now safe. We then handed the job to the Navy. Okay, you now got a container of explosive. Get it up, get it out, sling it over the side.
Stick it over the side, yeah.
Great sense of satisfaction, actually, having done that.
I bet,
bloody. Although I was an experienced COD man.
But that's proper saving the day. I mean, there's one thing disarming a bomb on a beach that's been there for years, to actually one that's in the hold of a ship that if it goes is going to kill hundreds of people.
Everybody's relying on it.
Yeah, of course there's a sense of achievement in that.
A lot of pressure as well.
Absolutely.
Everybody's relying on you to be successful.
Yeah.
And we were. As I say, I was an experienced EOD man anyway, but that was a different situation, as you just explained, basically.
Yeah.
So then the problem was we had to then get back to Lancelot. So again, we had to scrounge a lift back to Lancelot. And we eventually got back, Jim and I, and we were told that the one in the forward magazine, we'd be called back for that because it was flooding, and they had to pump the water out. There was sadly two sailors in there which had been killed by the impact.
Yeah.
Hadn't exploded, just wrecked the place basically. And when they'd pump the water out, they'd call us back. So we got back to Lancelot. Went in the mess, in the Lancelot, in the senior SO's mess, where they gave us a cup of tea, and that's when it kicked in. That's when the shakes began.
That's what I call the Glad to Be Alive Club.
Well, that's when you realise.
After an action, when you're there, you're doing your job.
Yeah.
You're absolutely consumed by what's in front of you. When you get back and you think, could have been a different story today, that one, couldn't it?
Absolutely right. That's when it started. I couldn't stop. Eventually calmed down. But you realise, that what could have happened, basically, Anyway, we thought about it, we talked about it, we got our kit ready for the next job, whenever the next job would be. And sure enough, next day we were tasked, you're needed back in Antelope. I said, they've drained the magazine, they want us back. Anyway, scrounged the lift back to Antelope, got to the side of Antelope where they're still pumping the water out. Argonaut, do apologise. And they're pumping the water out onto the rigid raider that we've just pulled up in. And they said, no, we don't want you here. You should have gone to Antelope. They've got 2 unexploded bombs on board. Oh, okay. So the coxswain on the rigid raider took us to Antelope. And as we approached Antelope, you could see a big hole in the side. She'd been hit out in Falkland Sound,
right,
and had come into St. Carlos water for shelter, basically. And she had 2 unexploded bombs on board. And I shouted to Jim over the noise of the engine that it's the same as yesterday, Jim. I could tell by the size of the hole of entry.
Okay. Same
size bomb. So I assumed it was the same sort of bomb. And therefore, we were both quite confident that we could deal with it, Anyway, we got on board Antelope, met by the crew, and they have a thing called a pot mess where they go around feeding the crew out of a Dixie, and it's all big stew, really. And they gave us a ladle of pot mess just to get us started because we hadn't eaten for ages. And I said to, what's all this white gear that you're all wearing? This is anti-flash in case of an explosion. I said, well, can we have some, please? Can we have a set of that anti-flash?
Nice.
Just in case. Yeah, it'd be nice if we could have some as well. So we scrounged some anti-flash, and then we looked at where the bombers had come in. One had come in at water level, and had gone up through the ship, and was sitting on a petty officer's bunk. And if you'd have covered it with a mattress or a blanket, you'd have thought someone would have been in bed. But in doing so, it had wrecked the ship. It completely wrecked the ship from water level up to the petty officer's mess. And in doing so, it completely crippled the ship, cut all its communications,
Wow.
Just by a short ton of steel coming through.
Yeah.
And unfortunately...
They must hit with some impact then to do that.
Well, it rocked the ship.
Yeah. I was going to say, it must hit with some impact, that has.
Well, it did. It knocked people off their feet. And a young steward, Mark Stevens, just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, was in the way of it and was killed. So he was in the paint locker, I understand. They put him in the paint locker. So I said, no, this is too difficult to get at the minute. Can you get some crew members down to clear the debris so we can get to the bomb? Where's the other one? So they took us to the other bomb in the refrigeration unit, which was just sitting there, and they wedged it with wooden wedges to stop it rolling around. And yeah, it was exactly the same as we dealt with the day before. So we got the equipment out, the rocket wrench. I clamped it on. I could see the pistol this time. They're made of brass, about as big as the end of a bean tin. And it was damaged. I could see it was damaged. And in being damaged, it had jammed the thread. So it was very difficult to get out. So I put the rocket wrench on, retired to relatively safe distance, fired it remotely with a Shrike exploder, give it a bit of time, went forward. It hadn't taken it out this time. So we decided that we'd have another go. Now, each time we have a go at removing this pistol, we are using 2 50 caliber cartridges, which have got electric cables to cause the...
And that's what's giving it the spin.
The Catherine wheel effect.
Yeah, got it understood.
Through a Venturi.
Yeah.
It's like Catherine wheel firework.
Yeah.
Now, we're carrying everything we need on our back, and I know there's another bomb to be dealt with. We had 2 more attempts at pulling that pistol out, and each time it was coming out a bit, but it wasn't coming all the way out. So we had 2 choices, or 3 choices. I could go forward and try again with the rocket wrench, or I could go forward and take it out by hand, which is not advisable, and in the book it says do not remove by hand. In other words, steal some pipe wrench on it and jemmy it out, basically. I wasn't keen.
Yeah, no. I don't blame you. That's right.
I mean, that's a cartoon type situation.
Yeah.
Sitting astride the bomb, doing that.
Yeah.
That's not good. And the other one was to throw it overboard. We decided not to throw it overboard, but to have another attempt at taking out the pistol.
Yeah.
So we had another attempt at removing the pistol. Bearing in mind, we're using up 2 cartridges every time.
Yeah.
And there was a pause. I took the cables out of the Shrike, as I did on the previous occasions, put the Shrike away in its container, tidied up the area, which is the soak time, really. And then there was this almighty bang. I felt nothing like it ever. It must have loosened all the rivets in the ship. And Jim and I looked at each other, because he was closer than you are to me now. And then the next thing I know, I'm flying through the air. And it was in slow motion. And I honestly thought I was dead. And I thought to myself, if this is death, this isn't so bad, because I felt no pain, no worries about family or anything like that. No worries about what did I do wrong and all the rest of it. Now, I was only flying a couple of meters before I hit the bulkhead, but it seemed like ages. It was in slow motion. And I was going down this tunnel, this long tunnel, and at the end of the tunnel was bright green and bright blue, grass and sky. And I was going down this tunnel. And there was a silhouette of my father at the end of this tunnel, who died a few years before. He was waiting for me to arrive. Sorry. I didn't arrive. I hit the bulkhead, which brought me round, so I never got to the end of that tunnel. Wow. And I hit it with my arse, basically, and my leg was all damaged. And then I landed on the deck and had a feel around to see what damage had been caused. I knew I'd injured my arm. I didn't know to what extent, but I was wearing an army pullover, and I could hold it. I could feel the weight of my arm. You know, it's quite heavy an arm, and that held it all together. I was bleeding, obviously, a lot, and then I started looking for Jim once I got up off onto my feet. I was shouting for Jim. The ship was on fire now. I was down below, didn't have a clue how to get out, didn't know where the escape hatches were, and I was looking for Jim. And then all of a sudden, there was a hand on my shoulder. One of the firefighters had come down to fight the fire. He said, "He's dead, follow me." Blunt as that. You know, so be it. So I put my hand on his shoulder and followed him to the escape hatch. And in doing so, we had to walk past Jim Prescott. He didn't have a mark on him, but he was dead. I could see he was dead. I went up the escape hatch onto the flight deck, and they were all the crew who we'd got out the ship for safety reasons were standing on the escape hatch, and when they felt the thing moving, then they moved off it and let us out onto the flight deck. So I said, "Right, can you go and get Jim out, please?" And they said, "No. I mean, Navy tradition, you stay on board ship. You know, if you're dead, you're dead." I've since learned that although Jim didn't have a mark on him, and that helped me when I spoke to his wife and his mother afterwards, the back of his head had all gone.
Right, okay. So
he hit the bulkhead with his head, where I'd hit it with my arse, and that saved me. My leg is still damaged to this day, but that saved me. Anyway, we all carried morphine around our neck. I think they called it Omnipom, morphine. We had 3 doses each.
Yeah, little syrettes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed.
And they gave me the morphine. I knew exactly what they were doing because I was trained first aid. I knew what they were doing. Yeah. Keep him talking, give him morphine, put an M on his, M1 on his forehead.
That's right, yeah.
All that stuff. I knew exactly what they were doing. They were keeping me talking whilst the fire was raging around me. Eventually, the captain realised he couldn't fight the fire and gave the order to abandon ship. And a landing craft, Foxtrot 4, which had come from Fearless, had come alongside, and she took all the crew, the Antelope crew, on board. I abandoned ship with the crew over the side as a walking wounded, but when I got into the landing craft, they put me on a stretcher, and I lay on my back watching the fire. Raging fire. And we're next to it.
Yeah.
And these Foxtrot 4 was made of plastic. You know, we're next to this fire, next to the ship that's on fire. And I'm thinking, if we don't get away from here soon, it's going to explode. Because I knew there was another unexploded bomb on board.
Yeah.
Plus the fact, the magazine, all the Sea Cat missiles and all. I thought, this is going to go up sky high. And they kept counting the crew. And eventually they decided they'd got them all. So we were pulled away to Ajax Bay Hospital, the field hospital that was set up by Rick Jolly. And halfway there, that's when the big explosion occurred. There's the famous photograph of HMS Antelope exploding, where she's silhouetted against the blast. I mean, nobody was on board that was going to survive then. We'd left the ship then. But it was very shortly after we'd left the side that she did explode. Anyway, I went to Ajax Bay, into the field hospital, where I was met by the surgeons. I'd gone into shock by then. I was shaking.
No, but you were.
Yeah, I'd gone into shock by then. They put me on a drip, And then they lay me on the operating theatre on the table. And I looked up. Now, this is a converted sheep refrigeration unit in the Falklands. It's a derelict building.
Yeah.
And I looked up, and there's this wriggly corrugated plastic sheeting underneath the fluorescent lighting, covered in dust. And this is an operating theatre now.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh, this isn't conducive to an operating theatre. I mean, I was fully with it, I was fully compliant.
Taking it all in.
Totally
Wow.
aware. And next thing I knew, they're waking me up, and the surgeon's leaning over my shoulder saying, we've had to take your arm off. And I just nodded because I knew, at least I could hear him telling me that they'd taken my arm off. I was still alive.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was in...
What's going through your mind then? Are you just glad to be alive, or are you thinking...
Glad to be alive.
Yeah.
Career's over. I'd been selected for W01 prior to deployment to the Falklands. I was waiting to take up my RSM's post.
Yeah.
I thought it had all gone. 20-odd years of service down the pan.
So you're pretty devastated at that stage?
Yeah, I was. I was pretty low. But still glad to be alive.
Yeah.
That was the most important emotion, really, that I was still alive. I was in Ajax Bay Hospital for a day and a half. I got injured on the Sunday. They flew me out by Sea King to the hospital ship, Uganda, on the Tuesday. And as I got off the stretcher to go into the Sea King, that was the only time I put my foot on the Falklands. And I looked around, and there was all steam from the field kitchens and all these people looking at me thinking, probably thinking, poor sod, 2 days later, 9 of them were killed because they were bombed. So I escaped
People
it.
forget or don't even know how brutal that war was. It was a war, wasn't it?
Conventional war.
Conventional.
Uniform against uniform.
Yeah.
And 9 of them were killed. And an unexploded bomb went into the operating theatre, and they were carrying on operating with an unexploded bomb in the roof. Anyway, I was shipped to Uganda, hospital ship, where I stayed for 3 weeks while they did further minor operations to clean me up. But the overriding thing is that when I got off that helicopter on Uganda, the smell was different. I could smell talcum powder, females. I could smell female.
Yeah.
That was the overriding emotion I remember from that experience. And after 3 weeks, they realised they could let me go up the chain back to the UK, and I went by ambulance ship to Montevideo on HMS Hydra, and I'm still friendly with a lot of that crew. And then from Montevideo, they flew us VC-10 to RAF Rawton, where I was met by my OC, Guy Lucas, who brought my wife down with me. And he then got permission to take me straight to Woolwich Hospital, where I was going to next day anyway.
Yeah.
And Queen Elizabeth Woolwich no longer there. And he took me in his staff car straight there to avoid another overnight, another journey. And then I was in Woolwich Hospital for 2 weeks whilst they were patching me up. Whilst I was in Woolwich Hospital, I had this chap come and see me. I said, "Oh, who are you?" He said, "I'm Sergeant Major 49 Squadron." I said, No, I'm the Sergeant Major 49 Squadron. They bloody replaced me, thinking, as quick as that. They'd replaced me because they didn't know what was going on, with the Falklands War. It was going to, carry on. They bloody replaced me. So I thought, well, that's it. My wife was a registered nurse. So I convinced the doctors that my wife could do exactly what they're doing if I was at home.
Yeah, just as well. She can change dressings, she can look
exactly
after you, she
right.
can keep you clean, she knows how to...
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So they agreed, and I discharged myself because I wanted to show that nothing else... It had changed, but nothing else had changed within me.
Yeah.
I was still me.
Yeah.
And I still wanted to be the Sergeant Major of the squadron.
Yeah, of course you did, yeah.
Stupid, really.
It's not, I don't think it's stupid.
Yeah, I know, not stupid, that's the wrong word. And I was incentivized to get myself fit and get back on duty.
Ambitious, maybe you could
Ambitious,
say, but not stupid. I think, I think you.
Anyway,
the
thing was, I was already behind a desk as a sergeant major anyway, so you mainly are. So my career was promised that if I got myself fit, I could stay in. That was the promise.
Okay.
So I got myself fit. I used to take remedial PT for all the BFT failures. I used to take all the young lads and me with one arm, 39-year-old with one arm. They're thinking, bloody hell, if he can do it, then I can do it. So this was to incentivize them to do it. Eventually, I was reassured that if I wanted to, I could stay in the army and take up my W01 RSM's post. But I was advised to leave. War pension, tax-free pensions, all these sort of things. But I thought, no, I'm not interested in the money. I fought long and hard for this career. I don't want to give it up.
No.
So I agreed that I would stay in and take up my post as RSM, which I did for 2 years. And a year into my RSM's tour, I said to the OC or CO, well, what's my chances of commission then? He said, the same as everybody else's, even though I'm medically downgraded, of course. I said, well, that's all I want. So I stayed in. I got selected for a short service commission. And after a year, that was extended to a regular quartermaster commission, as it was in those days. It's now LE, I think.
Yeah.
But I'd guaranteed 55. Could have sat on my ass and done nothing apart from being promoted to the age of 55. And, outside chance of lieutenant colonel. And from a boy in Coventry, to a lieutenant colonel, QM, great.
Yeah.
But sadly, Phil, the sort of employment they were offering me, because of my medical category, was not what I should have been getting at that stage of my career. I couldn't do operational tours again. I couldn't serve in BAOR as it was in those days. It was a UK posting only, usually static units. So they promoted me to captain, and they sent me as a chief instructor in the bomb disposal school. Now that's like giving a driving instructor who'd had a bad accident with a student, putting him back to driving instructing. I didn't want to do it.
No.
I did it because I'm a good soldier and I'll do as I told. Anyway, after a year of that, I applied to what was called PV7 in those days, who sorted out the postings for commissioned warrant officers, basically. And I knew the individual. I said, well, right, where are you sending me next? He said, I'm sending you to Long Marsden, as the tech quartermaster. Now, I knew Long Marsden was a backwater of a posting.
Yeah.
It was a stores depot in the Midlands. And I thought, nah. So I PVR'd, gave me notice.
Wow, PVR'd at that stage of your career.
Yeah. I hadn't been commissioned 5 years. I'd only done 4.5. And I always told people you must do 5 to get your officer's pension. But I did 4.5 and I didn't take my own advice. But I was dissatisfied so much, I just said, no, sorry, I'm on my bike. So I gave him a notice and I left. Quite a risk to take.
Yeah.
I could have sat on my backside till 55, had a successful career. But impulsive, if you wish, I don't know. But I decided to leave PVR. So I left in 1989, May 1989. The challenge was then find a job, get a job.
Yeah.
But because of my background, I managed to get a job with the security services. Still dealing with explosives, chasing the bad guys, Northern Ireland, Scotland, everywhere.
Yeah.
Fascinating job. And I did that for 12 years.
Wow.
As a civil servant. Then I did my sums again, Phil. And I jumped ship again. I said, no. So I gave my notice as a civil servant at the age of 59 to leave. And as I wrote my letter of resignation, another one came the other way, asking me to stay on to 65. And I said, no bloody way. No, I've had enough. So I retired on my 58th birthday.
Okay.
Having done my sums, got a civil service pension, of course.
Yeah.
Topped up my army pension, war pension. Very comfortable, thank you very much. I did a lot of voluntary work with SAFA and BLESMA and the South Atlantic Medal Association.
Yeah.
Did a lot of voluntary work with them. And eventually all that petered out. And now I'm just a retired old fart who does very little, you know.
What do you want to do now? What fight? Because you don't strike me as the sort of person who's just going to sit on the sofa.
Well, I am, Phil. I've turned into that individual where I watch daytime TV occasionally. I mean, tomorrow I'm up in Olympia fundraising for the Not Forgotten Association.
Okay, yeah.
I do these little things.
Yeah.
I'm going to an event because it's Christmas time. I'm going to an event next week, and then I'm going on holiday. But in the main, I don't do much these days.
You can pick and choose.
Yeah.
You can pick and choose.
Yeah.
Look, I say to people now, and even at 55 now, I say to people that the real currency for me is time, and time spent with the people that I want to spend my time with. Do you know what I mean? I ain't got. Yeah. You ain't going to get a lot of time on this planet.
No.
And, you know, I don't want to waste it on people I don't want to be with anymore. Do you know what I mean?
That's fair dues.
I want it to be with people that, or helping people, or inspiring other people. But I want my time to be positive on this planet. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I did that for the first, 10, 15 years after retiring. Yeah. But then all that petered out in the end. People changed. Trustees of the South Atlantic Fund changed. I mean, I'm a life vice president, which is an honour, of the South Atlantic Fund, because I helped set it. I helped set the South Atlantic Medal Association. I helped set it all up, get it all on a professional basis. So I'm quite proud of that. I edited their magazine for several years, but all that's gone now, right? It's all behind me. Someone else is doing that now.
Yeah.
Time's moved on. I'm just, as you say, arranging to meet old buddies on occasion. I'm going down to Eastbourne next week.
Nice.
See an old mate that I haven't served with since Germany. I haven't seen since Germany. And Christine tags along with me, as the my wife. She never liked the army. After 30 years in the army, and I said to her, I'm leaving. Thank goodness, she said, I've hated every minute. And I thought, bloody hell.
She's still by your side, mate.
She's still with me.
She must be a tremendous woman.
Oh, lovely lady.
Absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, I'm so in love with that lady. It's unbelievable.
No, you're blessed. You're blessed.
I've got many more years to come, hopefully.
Beautiful. No, honestly.
Yeah. I'm 82 next week. For God's sake, 82 next week.
You done it at 82.
Well,
I thought I was dealing with a 60-year-old, I'm telling you.
Well, I'm thankful for saying that, but I feel bloody 82.
Yeah.
But I've got a new hip and all the rest of it. But no, I'm blessed, as you say, with everything. I'm blessed with extra life. I've been injured more than I was not injured.
Yeah.
I've been out the army longer than I was in it.
Kids.
Yeah, my son Neil did 24 years in the Royal Engineers as a bomb disposal officer.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
I was a selection officer at training regiment when he came through. And my job was to allocate all the trades in the Royal Engineers to recruits. I said, okay, Phillips, come in, sit down. Normal patter. I said, right, mate, I don't say mate. I said, right, Phillips, what do you want to do? He said, well, I want to be in the bomb disposal like you. I said, no. I said, your mother will kill me if I give you that. And this, strike me dead, this is the exact words. Sir, if you don't allocate me, he said, I'm not leaving this office till you allocate me bomb disposal. I said, well, if you want it that much. So I allocated him the trade of bomb disposal. And he did 15 of his 24 in EOD, in bomb disposal.
Wow.
He's now out in Laos, clearing up all the American shit they threw around.
Yeah, there was a load of stuff.
He's got a damn good job working for an American company, dealing with unexploded bombs and ordnance. And
you must be proud of him.
So proud.
Yeah, and that's beautiful.
So proud.
Yeah, I love that.
Because he was the son of, he came through the Royal Engineers as son of, and a lot of pressure involved with that.
Yeah.
And he done well. He did all right. And as I say, he's got himself a damn good job. I don't think we'll see him back in the UK, to be honest with you. He's got himself a partner and a new family out there in Laos.
Kids have got to cut their own detail, haven't they? Do you know what I mean? My son's serving Yeah. Both my sons are serving, Dad.
Yeah.
They cut their own detail.
Yeah.
You know, one's likely to move to America soon. That's fine.
I never thought he would join the army, but he
held, mine would, but
he held a civvy job down for for all the time he left school. But he'd seen me and what I'd done and all the rest of it. Maybe it inspired him, I don't know. But he didn't tell me he was going to the recruiting office even. I was at Sutton Coldfield in the selection centre at Sutton Coldfield.
That's right, yeah.
I don't know whether you went there.
I did, yeah. That's exactly right.
Well, I was one of those officers that's, what do you want to join the army for, you know?
Wonder if we crossed swords.
Well,
I went through there in 87.
No, I was there. I got commissioned in 85. Yeah.
You might want to have
been there. I was there. Because I was there 18 months, 2 years. Yeah, could have done.
Number?
Could have done. 23675.
Oh, 2480128.
But you know what everybody had to do? They had to come round, run round the square, go in the gym, do all.
Yeah. Totally remember it.
Be interviewed by all these ex-rankers.
That's right, yeah.
And what I used to do, because I wore an artificial arm then, as I was talking to the recruit across the table as we are now, I used to spin it through 360 degrees to see what his reaction would be as I was asking the question, how do you feel about serving in Northern Ireland?
Oh, genius.
But my lad went through that, and I got out. I took a day's leave when that was on. I didn't want to influence the decision at all.
Yeah.
Whether he was in or out, I was up to him. He got in, and he did well. I was at training regiment when he came through.
Yeah, good.
But I didn't interfere with him. And his troop commander came up afterwards and said, "Thanks for that, John. You know, I could have been, how's he doing? You know, but I kept out of the way. The sank or swam on his own."
I had the same my son when he went to Sandhurst, and the boss, the commandant, caught me on the way out and he said, have you got him ready? I said, no, that's your job.
That's him.
I said, I've got nothing to do with this, you know what I mean? In fact, if he does everything I didn't do, he'll be all right, like, you know what I mean?
Well, I was walking in the barracks in Farnborough one day, and I heard this from must have been 100 metres away. "Good morning, sir." It was my son taking the piss, wasn't it? He'd called his group of lads to attention. He was saluting me from about 100 metres away. Carry on, Phillips, you know.
Brilliant.
So proud of him, man.
No, super.
Done a brilliant job. He got wounded in Afghanistan. He's done his tours out there. He got shrapnel in the middle of his back. He was leading a team, and the Danish detector man in front of him stood on an anti-personnel mine, and how, I don't know, Neil got shrapnel in his back. I said, "In your back, Neil? What were you doing?" But no, he was wounded. He's done his bit. I'm very proud of him.
Sure he has, mate. 24 years.
Yeah.
Very hard not to do your bit.
Yeah. Well, I got two daughters as well. One in the Isle of Wight, and one who lives around the corner from me in Woking. In fact, she's been chosen to look after us in our old age, actually. So, yeah.
They must be immensely proud of their dad.
Well, I suppose they are.
I bet they are.
Yeah.
They have to be, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, as I say, Neil went through all that pressure of son of, but he did well.
Yeah.
A little story, if I may tell you.
Yeah, 100%. That's what we're here for.
When I went to the palace, because I was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, and Jim Prescott was awarded the Conspicuous Gallantry Medal, and his family went separately to receive that. The only one from the Falklands, very rare award. And I was so nervous when I went to the palace, I called the Queen sir. She says, you know, you're called forward, and you do your bit, you bow, and you go forward, and she shakes your hand. And she asked me a question, and I answered it. "I'm driving again now, sir." And I thought, "You prat, what have you said that?" And she must have thought, "Bloody idiot." Or maybe she didn't. I don't know. But everything was a sir, you see, in the palace. Yeah. When I got to her, she was a sir. But, yeah.
I'm sure she would have forgiven you.
Well, I'm sure she did. I was fortunate enough to meet her a couple of times after that.
Yeah.
Had a lunch in her presence. Not with her, but in her presence.
Yeah.
When she visited the Corps. Yeah. Yeah, great lady.
You've had a tremendous life. And long may it continue.
I've had a good and successful life, considering what has gone on. Yeah. You know, I've been very, very fortunate. I think you make your own luck, you know.
I think it's also important, and I say this to a lot of guests we have on here, what you do is role modelling for other young people now who may be that kid in Coventry now who's not doing too much, not doing too well, and he's looking at you thinking, hang on a minute, look at that, look what he's done, look at wow, Do you know what I mean? And that's a massively powerful thing. Do you know that? Massively powerful thing.
Well, I was driven by ambition, as you said, to get commissioned, and I thought I lost it all. But the system was good to me. I mean, if I'd have been a young soldier, I'd have been stacking planes.
But you underestimate that as well. You also never gave up on the idea either, did you? No. You could have walked, you could have taken the advice and gone, I'll tell you what, weigh me in with all that dough and I'll see you later. But you didn't. You followed your dream. I'd have regretted
that for the rest of
my life.
You
followed your dream. Exactly. You followed your dream.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I still have minor doubts about leaving when I did because I didn't end up a lieutenant colonel. But, you know,
I think you've done.
I've had another life since.
Absolutely.
And I've made more friends since. And we meet up once a year in the Union Jack Club. And they're all my civvy colleagues. They're not military, none of them.
Yeah.
And I take them to lunch once a year in the Union Jack Club. And we chat about all times, you know.
Well, look, I hope you'll become a friend of the station and a friend of us here at Force Radio.
I've already done a recce and had a look online of what all this is about. So, I've seen you before.
Yeah, no, I'd like you to become a friend of our community. You're certainly going to inspire people within our community, and I thank you for that. And I thank you for coming today. So, listen, we're gonna wrap up here. But look, maybe one day we could get you on with your boy. That would be a treat.
If he comes home,
Well, let him know. Let him know. I'd love to see the pair of you on here together, and I'd love to talk to you as a.
Oh, it's been a privilege. Privilege to meet you, mate.
Thank you very much.
Yes, yeah.
All right. Listen, I want to shake your hand.
All right. Cheers.
All right, buddy. All right.